Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. Experts help us make sense of an unimaginable tragedy, one that is still taking its toll on an Essex County community. Plus, a deal between the University of Windsor and pro-Palestinian protesters have left some Jewish students feeling excluded. And not one, but 9 predatory animals were found in a local woman's backyard, but it wasn't fear she experienced, more of a sense of awe. The Harrow community is still trying to come to grips with the tragedy of the Walsh family, a tragedy that seems unimaginable. However, there are some that understand it better than others. The CBC's Dulcin Chen speaks with experts who've spent years researching domestic murder-suicide.
The Canadian Domestic Homicide Prevention Initiative defines familicide as a mass killing involving the death of a spouse or partner and the death of at least one child. As shocking as these incidents are to the public, they aren't unprecedented. Between 2010 and 2020, there were 25 occurrences of familicide in Canada, and researchers say they don't take place without warning.
These cases don't happen out of the blue. Someone doesn't wake up one day and decide to kill their family members. Usually there's multiple warning signs. The vast majority of cases have 7 or more risk factors that would be known in advance to friends, family, coworkers, often the police, and often community professionals. There's an increasing amount of data available where we can see consistent patterns. There's consistent risk factors and there's consistent missed opportunities to intervene. Generally speaking, it would be extremely rare to find a situation of a homicide-suicide with no warning signs.
OPP have released no information about the circumstances that led up to Stephen Walsh fatally shooting his wife Carly, his daughter Madison, and his son Hunter before turning the gun on himself at their home on County Road 13. Although Carly sometimes posted about her husband on Facebook, few details have emerged about him as a person. What is publicly known about Stephen Walsh are some characteristics shared by other familicide perpetrators. Research shows the vast majority of domestic homicide suicides are committed by men between the ages of 25 and 54. Family homes in rural settings are disproportionately represented among familicide locations, and guns are the most common method for committing familicide. Other risk factors include histories of abuse, ongoing or pending separation, alcohol or drug issues, employment or financial problems, and mental health symptoms such as depression. The initiative's examination of familicide is among the first of its kind in Canada. It's hoped that by pooling data and finding common markers, better approaches can be taken towards prevention.
I think one of the most important things to do is to think about who is in your community and what kind of open door do you have to have non-judgmental conversations with them. What kinds of challenges are people dealing with behind closed doors and off of an online presence that's kind of curated to provide the very best picture? How do we make sure that we are open to having those kinds of conversations? How do you ask questions about whether or not that person may be considering killing somebody else along with themselves?
Dulcin Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
If you or someone you know is struggling, here are some places where you can get help. Call 988 for the Suicide Crisis Helpline. Kids Help Phone can be reached at 1-800-668-6868. There's live chat counseling at their website. The Hiatus House Crisis Line is 519-252-7781. And Windsor's Crisis and Mental Wellness Center can be reached at 519-973-4435. The Sarnia chemical plant, fighting strict provincial regulations, wants a tribunal to hear its case as soon as possible. Lawyers for INEOS argued today that delays will increase the risk of accidental toxic emission leaks. The plant has been shut down for months after people in nearby Aamjiwnaang First Nation reported being sick. Chief and counsel say it's because the chemical plant has released high levels of benzene. Ontario forced the company to shut down with strict guidelines it needs to follow to reopen. Last month, the company announced plans to shut down in 2 years because of economic conditions, but it's still fighting the new provincial guidelines through a tribunal process. Lawyers for INEOS, the province, and Aamjiwnaang will meet in September to argue their sides. It's expected to last about 12 days. Feelings of frustration and ostracism continue from members of the Jewish community after the University of Windsor reached a deal with the pro-Palestinian protesters who occupied parts of campus since mid-May. The university's Jewish student group says they don't believe Jewish students were consulted on the deal.
There's already a very, very small minority of Jewish students, at least those who openly identify as Jewish at the University of Windsor. We are, as it stands, given the state of academia right now, already very much at risk of being marginalized, very much at risk of having our legitimate concerns not heard by university administrations. And, one of the biggest challenges that we face is basically being told that our perspectives don't matter, that more importantly, our perceptions or our experiences of anti-Semitism are invalid. For the most part, we believe that this deal is, well, at least appears to be closely aligned with a lot of the BDS policies that we consider to be inherently anti-Semitic and will ultimately have the effect of erasing fundamental aspects of Jewish identity on campus. It also silences a lot of valid criticism that Jewish students may have about different forms of discrimination they might face on campus.
Liberal MP Anthony Housefather, who's also the federal government's special advisor on Jewish community relations and anti-Semitism, posting this on social media in response. He said he's deeply disturbed by agreements signed and that he's working with others on the issue. The protest was one of many in North America that have sprung up in recent months due to the Israel-Hamas war in Gaza. Windsor's encampment organizers called the deal the most far-reaching agreement to come from a Canadian post-secondary institution. The deal states the university will boycott institutional partnerships with Israeli universities for the time being, though individual academics can collaborate with colleagues in Israel, disclose direct and indirect investments, and support students impacted by the crisis in Gaza. The University of Windsor responded to CBC's request for comment yesterday afternoon, saying it's dedicated to fostering an inclusive, respectful, and welcoming campus for everyone, and that it believes negotiated agreements yield better long-term outcomes. The statement went on to say campus must be a space for respectful expression of diverse viewpoints, even when challenging or contentious, and that it's committed to equity, diversity, and inclusion, and ensuring that students' voices and aspirations are heard. As of today, LCBO stores have been closed across the province for a week, and we're learning tonight about anger that's coming from striking workers against their own union. It came out at town hall after Ford criticized the lack of information that was making its way to workers. Chris Glover visited a picket line to hear from LCBO workers.
7 days into the first ever LCBO strike, and the resolve is solid, according to striking workers at this downtown Toronto picket line.
We're very positive. It's all good.
The amount of support that we're getting, it's encouraging with every truck driver who honks their horn. Everybody that comes up and says, keep going.
While the picket lines are likely drawing the most loyal union workers, discontentment is brewing.
We need to stand together. We need to stand together to win. And yelling at people and screaming, get back at the bargaining table. This is why we had this call tonight.
Wednesday at a virtual town hall held by the union representing workers, Colleen McLeod, the head of the bargaining unit, was in full-on defense mode as multiple questions were leveled at the leadership, especially around why the union didn't remain at the table and transparency of the first deal offered by the LCBO.
One of the things I keep seeing in the chat is the document. Where's the document? We didn't post the document because the employer did.
The union said the meeting drew around 3,000 of the 9,000 striking workers. It followed comments from Premier Doug Ford that he'd spoken directly to workers who were unhappy with the union's demands.
Do you know what I heard from people? 3 things. They want job security, they want to make sure they get an increase, and they want benefits. They aren't worried about this RTD.
Every striking worker we spoke to at this picket who attended the town hall acknowledged the anger from within, but downplayed it.
There's going to be some dissatisfaction because it's a strike. It's going to be a little volatile, right? No matter what.
A lot of people are frustrated at this point. We just want to get back to work.
I haven't seen a lot of frustration out here, but Ontario's a big place. There are a lot of lines. There are a lot of people in precarious work like me, and So I can understand their frustration, but hopefully we hold the line.
Casual employee Joanna Henderson says the Premier is wrong. She says striking workers are concerned about RTDs or ready-to-drink cocktails being expanded to places like convenience stores. She thinks, as her union has routinely stated, it'll result in revenue and job losses at the LCBO. And the LCBO's offer to convert 400 casual employees to permanent ones won't fix it.
I'm out here for job security. I'm out here for the permanent jobs. I know they've offered some, but when you consider that 70% of us are casual, that's probably over 6,000 people, so 400 jobs is 6%. It's not enough.
Ready to drink is the fastest growing category. So no wonder they're trying to, they're trying to take it away from us. And it's going to mean less jobs, less hours.
Striking worker Brian Bisson agrees. What did you think of the vibe on that call?
I feel like it was the general consensus that we're feeling a bit distressed about what Ford was saying. But then at the end of it felt like everybody was back on board.
Meanwhile, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation says the strike is merely a protest against the government's plan to expand the sale of ready-to-drink cocktails across the province. The right-leaning think tank says it makes no sense having a Crown corporation control the alcohol marketplace anymore. And instead, the Taxpayers Federation is calling on Ford to allow grocery stores to sell all types of alcohol during the strike.
They're attacking the convenience agenda that's going forward, and we're saying we shouldn't stand for it.
Well, I think as a right-wing think tank, they're probably doing what they're paid to do, so that's good for them. I don't agree with it.
Back on the picket line, David Evans is glad his union is firmly against the ready-to-drink cocktail expansion.
Well, we already have a very mixed market, with like where it's sold and stuff like that. And this is not a product that you just sell willy-nilly.
He plans to continue standing alongside other workers until a deal is struck. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
The strike is also limiting access to Ontarians who are alcohol dependent and could be going through withdrawals. It's a source of concern for those in Hotel Dieu Grace Healthcare's Mental Health and Addictions Department. We spoke with its director, who says there are significant health complications that can happen during withdrawal.
I would imagine that for some people, maybe the LCBO is most convenient for them. Maybe it's close by, or they're able to, maybe they have mobility issues and they're able to access that. But there are alternate ways, even online. Not everybody knows how to do that or is savvy with that. So it can be deemed essential to some, just from some perspectives. In other circumstances, maybe loved ones can assist in obtaining access. So it's not quite as bad as it was, when there was different or when there were no avenues, alternate avenues. But given that there are now, not quite so problematic, but definitely still a concern, especially for those circumstances where the LCBO was that person's primary location to obtain alcohol, if in fact they are dependent on it.
LaSalle resident got quite the surprise earlier this week when she looked out her backyard. She spotted not one, not two, but 9 coyote puppies playing on her lawn. She was able to quickly grab her cell phone and record a short video. Take a look.
Actually, my son noticed. He looked out the window and said puppies. And so I was like, excuse me, because we don't have a dog. So I turned around, and yeah, there were 9 of them, actually. I know you can't see them all because they were kind of scattered around our yard, and I had no idea coyotes had that many pups at once. So that was pretty shocking to see. They were just kind of rolling around and biting at each other, and they looked like they were having a great time.
It's a quintessential Canadian adventure, months in a kayak exploring the Canadian shorelines of the Great Lakes. That's the trip that Amherstburg resident Ian Parrish has been making recently, kayaking the Canadian side of Lake Huron after completing Lake Erie and Lake Superior. We spoke to him as he got back on solid ground after a 30-day trip.
It's kind of a culmination of an entire lifetime of being outdoors and loving paddle sports and surf sports and skateboard sports and all those sorts of things. So it's just kind of a natural progression for me. It's definitely a risk to take these challenges on. I've done some really big open water paddling on these types of trips, and there's always an element of danger and risk involved. And I think going after those dreams that are kind of bigger than yourself challenge you to figure out who you really are. We definitely have really wonderful, almost euphoric experiences some days, and then other days are just devastating. And so you learn to process a lot of emotions by doing it, and that's kind of a cool thing. At times I've had 7-8 day periods on different trips where you just don't even see a soul. It's just you completely by yourself. I've gone as far as sleeping on public beaches and just putting my tent up and seeing what happens, and it's worked out quite well for me. I don't suggest doing that. It's really not what you should be doing, but you do it when you're solo and you have no support around. You're going to do what you have to do. This trip really was summed up by the kindness of random humans. I had so many bad days to paddle that I was pinned down on shore, and so it really became an opportunity to kind of meet some people from the paddling community or just kind of the random strangers.
What do you think, Colette? Could you see yourself kayaking around the Great Lakes for weeks on end?
I could not. I admire that gentleman. I could see myself, though, enjoying the coyote puppies.
Oh, I know. Kind of cute.
That's more my speed.
Yeah, I know. We think coyotes are so aggressive, and they are predators. But when you see all those puppies out on the lawn there, I mean, they are pretty cute.
Puppies are cute. What are you gonna do? All kinds. All right. I don't know how cute you feel or think this weather is when we've got the heat building back in. I think there are some that'll be happy about it. But I'm going to start off with the desert Southwest and some of the readings here, because then in comparison, it makes, temperatures that are going into the 30s not seem that significant, because we're talking about 44 Phoenix, Vegas, the same thing, 45 in Needles, and almost to 40 degrees all the way towards Salt Lake City. And the heat in the west doesn't end there. If you take a look at some of the cooler air that's in the prairie provinces, yes, but check out closer to the international border there. So 29 in Regina, Winnipeg at 30 degrees. There are heat warnings into parts of northern Ontario as well. Kenora there you see at 29, and some of this heat and that warmth, it's making its way eastward and coming back into our neighborhood. So we do have a heat warning that has been issued. I know it's a small area so far, but still we could see that expanding. The current temperature is still pretty comfortable. 27 for Windsor and Chatham-Kent at 26. Heroes coming in at 27 right now, by the way. And Sarnia 25, London 26. Cooler there in Goderich. The temperature just at 21. But there's your Humidex value. It's still very comfortable. Once you get to that 35 or above, then it starts to feel kind of stickier, and that's essentially where we're going as we move into the weekend. So we're going to find those Humidex values not necessarily getting to 40, but getting closer to feeling like 40. Still a few isolated showers, losing some of that energy, that daytime energy, and so they will be winding down. Doesn't mean there won't be the odd sprinkle, or you might hear a little thunder, clap of thunder there coming through into the evening hours, but all of this is going to be kind of drying up. It sets us up for mostly sunny skies for Saturday. It looks really good. We do have some changes kind of coming or brewing more so as we go into Sunday. That next bit of energy will move in. It's going to bring some extra cloud cover, and we'll say some scattered showers and thunderstorms here and there. It's not going to ruin Sunday, but know what's going to be in our skies. Lows tonight, again, should be pretty comfortable, although the humidity will be coming up, so enjoy tonight while you can, and then check out those readings we're going to be seeing over the next few days. No wonder we're going into a heat warning.
Thanks so much for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
It's Friday, which means Josiah Sinanen is standing by for his Week's End segment. That's coming up after the break. Josiah Sinanen is back with our Week's End segment. Josiah, there are some amazing organizations in our community that are doing awesome work, and I understand one of them is celebrating a big birthday.
Yes, it's a big birthday, an organization that's been serving our community for the past 10 years, and that is Feeding Windsor Essex. And it's an appropriate namesake because it has been their mission over the last decade to fill the gap in our community for those who would not otherwise be able to get a good meal. And you likely have come across some of their work if you're local to the area. They're the ones behind the Soup Shack downtown. They have a lunch and supper club and even a pet food bank. And one of their more unique offerings is their community meal program, where they will serve hot meals to residents in the community that they're living in. So it's a chance for people to not only get fed, but also get together.
10 years is a long time. How have things changed over that span?
It is a long time, Megan. As I'm sure you can imagine, the landscape over who exactly needs support when it comes to getting a good meal has also shifted. So we're really fortunate that this resource has been here in the community this long. Roger Fordham is the executive director who we talked to earlier this week. Here are some of the numbers that we spoke about looking back on the past 10 years. And you're celebrating a pretty big milestone, 10 years of serving the community here. Tell me a little bit about how you've seen the landscape change in terms of people who need to use a service like this.
Yeah, for sure. Back when we started, part of it was we wanted to connect people in the community where they are. So we did food in different neighborhoods. And so you got the people, the single mom or single parent or the working poor or senior, and some people that were just isolating that just wanted to get out and be around people. Over time, the numbers have increased, obviously. When we started doing 12,000 meals a year. Last year we did 226,000 meals a year, and we served over 1 million people in 10 years. Wow. So the numbers, was 18 times, but it's more families, single parent families, more seniors. But we have a lunch club that's basically done in seniors, and we have seniors standing in front of us in tears, saying, "Look, I'm not eating. What can we do here?"
Wow, those are some big numbers. On a bit of a lighter note, there must be a party somewhere.
Yeah, Feeding Windsor Essex is going to celebrate all the great work that they've done in our community tomorrow. They're hosting a free festival in Lansbury Park. It's going to be a really lovely afternoon, a chance to be together and see more about what this organization is doing. It's called Beats and Eats, and it kicks off at 1:30 p.m. with an acoustic Joe Ritchie concert at the ice rink. There'll be food vendors, small businesses, and you can bring along your picnic blankets and lawn chairs for a nice day. And Meg, if you stick around, the afternoon concludes with a 7 p.m. concert with Christian Vague. So make sure you stop by, say hello, and support this pillar of our community. It's a great chance to see the heartbeat of Windsor Essex.
And it looks like we have a good weather forecast
Exactly.
for it.
It's going to be perfect.
Thanks so much for that, Josiah.
Thank you.
A car that's capable of traveling 350 kilometers an hour has just been unveiled. We give you a little look coming up. NASA and the European Space Agency are marking the second anniversary of the Webb Space Telescope with a spectacular image. This is a pair of galaxies intertwined in a cosmic dance 326 light years away. Keep in mind, 1 light year is about 9.5 trillion kilometers into space. Nicknamed Penguin and the Egg, the tangled neighbors will eventually merge to form a single galaxy, but that will take many more millions of years. Webb Space Telescope is seen as the successor of the aging Hubble. It is positioned about 1.6 million kilometers from Earth, farther away from the sun. Red Bull has unveiled its multi-million-dollar hypercar at a motor festival in England. The RB17 is for racetrack use only and capable of more than 350 kilometers per hour. There are just 50 of these being made over the next 3 years. Each costs north of $10 million. And before you reach for your wallet, all 50 have already sold out. Each car will be custom fit with owners carefully chosen by Red Bull. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week.